The theme of how much is too much automation is explored and humans need not apply. At what point do we start giving up parts of our humanity? Do we want to relax or mourn or experience intimacy without another human being?
We are sitting in the tickle salon, and this is a robotic installation. When another person is caressing you, there is always also the distraction to this other person who is maybe doing you a favor, or you are kind of psychologically or not totally free, you know?
When you initially see it, you think this is impossible, that I could enjoy this, but the inspiration for this machine came from being touched by grass in summer. And that's totally not intimate. It just feels pleasant.
It's not replacing anything like intimacy between people. It's just an addition.
Robots are creeping more into areas that would be considered quite personal and subjective. So this is just one way of illustrating and making visible, let's say, how artificial intelligence accounts are already present. I mean, this app now is on the App Store. More and more bots are used to maybe engage with people, to get money off them and so on. And it could be that in the future we all have our own profile, bots trained on our Facebook accounts, for instance, that will converse on our behalf.
Tony 1.0 is an autonomous robot that's, it can be described as a morning robot. It tends to a grave. So many people, most of the time, prefer to forget about the dead. And I think Stony kind of makes that as a primal assumption and goes from there to saying, okay, so if you are not going to be taking care of your dead, then I will, and I will relieve you from this chore. What are we willing to do to remember the dead? What are we willing to do to bring them back into our lives? And how does this idea of a robot that takes care of a grave, where does that meet us? No, just asking the question.
We came up with a scenario, which is in this big chart here, explaining what happens once the robots get so efficient that they take over. Humans basically go back to an analog world where everything is communicated either clandestinely or in an old way with handbills and flyers and things.
There's one point on the timeline that says it becomes illegal to impersonate a robot without any explanation. So why? What happened that made that happen? And so it's kind of just a matter of triggering thought as to what are the possibilities down that road. There are some people that are totally happy to live in virtual reality and let the robots do all these tasks. But there are others that are going to be able to try to claim their stake and retain their autonomy. And so that's a very real thing within human life, and I think that would continue.
Sure, so this is a parasitical entity which lives off human energy. So it uses our muscle power to generate electricity by cranking this crank here. And it does that by stimulating our muscles.
If the visitor starts cranking and giving the machine a bit of power, it will slow down on the muscle stimulation. It won't stimulate my muscles anymore via the electrodes. But if I stop, just after like a second or two, there you go, it starts again to remind me that I'm not a user as I usually am with my smartphone, but I'm being used, and the machine is actually the user. There's this reversal of the idea that we are always using machines, so this machine just really stands by its own. This is a way to experience what it feels to be used, and now you can think about it in terms of what it means to our relationship with technology. So do we want to become used all the time, or do we want to be in control? So it's a metaphor of control.
I am a total fatalist. I honestly believe the robots will eventually kill us all off.